what are keyboard shortcuts, some useful ones, and where to find more. And even if you only learn one or two, they can be really helpful for you, okay? So they're good. So what they are is they're a combination of keys that performs an action or a command without needing to use a mouse. Okay, so for people that use laptops a lot, you've got a trackpad, and sometimes moving your finger over the trackpad to move a mouse around on the screen can be challenging. Sometimes if you've got a big monitor, moving your mouse around a screen means going all the way from, say, the upper left to the lower right, or the lower right to the upper left. And so you can keep your mouse cursor on your screen in the position it's in also when you want to perform some kind of action. So if there are things you want to do in an application or on your computer and not have to use your mouse to do it, a keyboard shortcut is a good thing to know. And there's a lot of them. So the trick is focusing in on the ones that are really most important to you. I took a picture of my Mac keyboard, and you have typically a shift key, a control key, an option key, and a command key on your keyboard. And oftentimes they're just repeated on the right-hand side of your keyboard, only in reverse. Just depends on the particular Mac keyboard you use. Above the numbers, there are some function keys. Don't think I'll talk too much about them today, but I just wanted to show you where to look on your Mac. So you see this little control key, it's got a little arrow symbol above it. It's not an up arrow like shift. It's a up arrow that means control. But there's an option key. It has a funny little symbol here with a dash. That's the option key symbol. And the command symbol is this. The command symbol and the control key on a Windows computer often do many of the same things, but not always. Sometimes the keyboard shortcuts are very similar between Windows and a Mac, and sometimes they are. Most people only use one computer, but for those of you that use multiple, computers, it can be a little confusing. And so just be aware of that. This is what you'll see in symbols is you'll see the command symbol. You'll see a shift symbol. That's a full shaped arrow. Okay. You'll see the option symbol and you'll see the control symbol. So it's a little bit of hieroglyphics at first. It's like learning a new language and translating the letters. Okay, this is command, this is shift, this is option, this is control. And what you'll see when there are keyboard shortcuts that are explained is they'll use a combination of symbols, and they might use a letter or a number or another key as well. But these are the most common keys that are used typically in keyboard shortcuts on a Mac. And what happens is that you are changing the function of a key by hitting a shortcut command first. So if you press down on the command key and then the letter K, for example, you are doing something different than if you just hit the letter K. So it's the combination of keys that make it takes a different action what the key might normally be used for. And you'll see it in action. But Windows keys are a little bit different. There is a control key, an alt key, a shift key, a Windows key, and a tab key. Okay, so they're typically in these red areas here, okay, on your keyboard. But Windows keyboards are a lot different depending on, there's a lot more accessory keyboards out there, but you'll typically find them in this red area here on your Windows keyboard. This is the format typically for a shortcut on a Mac. Okay, you'll see the command key and then the letter N. Okay, so when you when you press command and hold it down and then press the N key, it does something new. It depends on the application you're in. So if you're in Notes, it creates a new note. If you're in Mail on Apple, it creates a new mail message. If you're on Pages, it creates a new page. If you're in Finder, it can oftentimes create a new folder, but I don't know if that's exactly the command. So I wouldn't go on my word for that. I'd check it out first. The other way you might see it is you might see it written with the Command key plus the N key. Okay, so they come in both formats. They're the same thing. It just means hold the Command key and the other key down, and it will give you an action on your screen. And we'll have a chance to try a few out and see what they do. Now, Windows is generally uses the plus sign. So you'll see lots of times the Control key. Oh, and I've got a typo here. This should say Control instead of Command. I copied the slide and pasted it. But the Control key on Windows plus the N key will create something new. If you're in Word, it'll create a new Word document. Oh, so for example, so same function in terms of common. There's a fair amount of commonality, but everything's a little bit different because Macs do things differently than Windows. So these are some really useful Windows shortcuts that are used commonly by people. The Windows logo key will open the Start menu. The Alt plus Tab will give you the ability to switch between open programs or windows. The Alt plus F4 will close any active item or program. Control plus S saves a current document. Control plus X cuts a selected item. Control plus C will copy the selected item, and Control plus V will paste the selected item. Really useful in any word processing or document or file management set operation you're doing. Control plus Z will undo an action. Control plus A will select all the items in a document or a window. F1 displays help for a program or windows, and the Escape key will cancel the current task. These are some really useful Mac shortcut keys. F4 will open the Launchpad where you can choose and see your programs on your system. Command plus Tab will switch between open programs or windows. Command plus W will close the active item or program. Command plus S saves the current document. Command plus X cuts the selected item. Command plus C copies the selected item. Command plus V will paste the selected item. And those three are really useful for word processing apps. Command plus Z will undo an action. Command plus A will select all the items in a document or window. Command plus spacebar opens Spotlight Search. And Escape cancels the current task. So where do you find shortcuts? On Macs, you typically find them in your menu. At the top left, whenever you're using any program, like this is an example of Safari, you will find, whenever you click on a menu item, you'll find the drop-down menu, and then you'll also see the keyboard shortcuts. And you can see there's Option Command N, opens up a new window. Command T opens up a new tab. Command O opens up a file. So Command W closes a window. Option Command W closes all windows. So if you go through File, Edit, View, History, you'll see the mouse link you can click on to do something, but you'll also see the keyboard shortcuts listed for Macs in gray, and you'll see Command P listed for print whenever you want to use print as well. So it's a convenient way to get to it. Windows uses menus within the applications typically, and so you'll see things like a file, edit, format, for example, and you'll see Control Z, there's our cut, Control X, copy, Control C, paste, Control V, useful for word processing and working with documents. Delete, just the delete key. Find, Control Find. Find next. If you are doing something where you're going through a document and you're going through things that you want to scroll through all the way, sometimes that, find next is really convenient. Replace, go to. So you can find keyboard shortcuts in a lot of places, but you're typically going to click on a menu item to find the shortcuts. So if you do something repetitively, this is the secret to using shortcuts well. If you do something on a repeated basis over and over and over and over again on an ongoing basis, then what you want to do is you want to be able to take a look at things and find out what you're doing. And if there's a way you can cut it short by doing it, you want to be able to find a shortcut to do it. Windows has another couple of ways to find a keyboard shortcut. On Word, for example, which has a ribbon, if you hover over an item, it will italicize it will show you the keyboard shortcut, what's called a little pop-up menu, okay? So it'll pop that up and show you that when you pop something up, if you hover over it. What you'll also see when you're working with different shortcuts as well is you'll see that sometimes when you open up a menu, there'll be an underlined letter. And when there's an underlined letter, you just have to press the Alt key plus the letter, and that will give you the keyboard shortcut that will initiate it. So Alt P is for print, Alt S is for save, Alt N. And they are pretty consistent across all programs. Sometimes they aren't, but sometimes they are. It's just a matter of getting used to using the right keyboard shortcuts, whichever one you work on. Now, how to find more shortcuts in Mac, and I'm going to show you this. You go to System Settings, go to the keyboard option in the menu, and then there you'll have a button for keyboard shortcuts, and it'll show you all of the keyboard shortcuts available that Apple includes for your Mac. These are system shortcuts. Sometimes in a menu, if you're working with an app like Notes or Apple Mail or Pages or something like that, you'll find something different in there as well. On Windows, you go to Accessibility, Settings, Accessibility, and then you find keyboard shortcuts, and that will give you a list. And I'll show you how to walk through and find them. And then I'm going to show you some web pages where there's resources as well. And in Gmail, there's a keyboard shortcut called Shift plus question mark that'll show you all of the keyboard shortcuts. So we're going to try a few of these out and see how they work, okay? And we'll take a look and see what we can try and accomplish on our system here and make it work effectively. What you're looking at is the web link for Mac keyboard shortcuts. You can always do a search and just find Mac keyboard shortcuts. It kind of explains what these keys are. Copy, cut, paste, Command X, Command C, Command V. Command Z undoes things. In Windows, there's a keyboard shortcuts guide as well, and they have them broken out by Windows, text editing, etc. So there's a whole lot of resources for keyboard shortcuts. This is my Gmail screen. Okay, so I'm going to press the Shift and question mark key to show you what happens when you type in Shift and question mark. And it shows you all of the keyboard shortcuts that are available for you in Google Gmail. You don't do it in Chrome. You have to make sure you're looking at Mail, but it actually works in the ability to do it on Safari and Edge, just as long as you're logged in your Gmail account. So advancing, carbon copying, inserting a link, these are things, and it knows I'm on a Mac, so it's indicating these are command. As if I was on a Windows system, it would give me typically the control key. It was something I just discovered in preparing for this. I said, this is really kind of amazing. You can open it in a new window as well. If I go to settings here, and I go to settings, and I go to accessibility in Windows, and then way at the bottom of it is something called keyboard, okay? And then way at the bottom of keyboard is finding keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so it's a little bit more difficult, I think. And all it does is it takes you to the web page for Microsoft, keyboard shortcuts. So it's going to show Windows 11 keyboard shortcuts site, Microsoft.com. So if you just go to Windows keyboard shortcuts, the link on the web, you're going to find this screen directly just by going to it. But you can find desktop shortcuts that you can use to navigate around the desktop. You can find just all kinds of shortcuts available. There's just more than anybody can remember. And every user is going to be a little bit different because they often do things a little bit differently. Now, on Apple, if you go up to the Apple in the upper left-hand corner and you go to System Settings, it brings up your Apple settings menu, and we're going to find Keyboard. You want to scroll down until you find Keyboard here. And then when you find Keyboard, keyboard navigation here is listed, and there's a little button for keyboard shortcuts. If you click on that, it gives you an explanation of all of the keyboard shortcuts built into your Mac. So a Option Command D turns the dock hiding on and off. You know how your dock on your Mac goes up and down? If you want to show Launchpad, a Shift Command L. If you want to change your display brightness, that's a function key. They help you out there. Mission Control's handy because it shows all of your open windows. Keyboard will give you the ability to manage a shortcut to move focus on things. Screenshots, shortcuts for screenshots, shortcuts for Spotlight, which I want to show you, and then function keys and modifier keys. So there are just a lot of different shortcuts you can use here if you ever really are interested. If you ever change one, you can customize keyboard as well. But if you ever want to change something, so if I type in the Shift Command L, it brings up my Launchpad. Okay, so that's what it. Shift Command L will bring up a Launchpad, and I have the ability to access that. So I find one of the best keyboard shortcuts on my Mac, the Command and Spacebar key. It brings up Spotlight Search. So if I want to ever find an application or a document or anything, it'll search my Mac. The Windows taskbar on Windows has that search function located in the taskbar. So it's always there. But on a Mac, if you go down to your dock, there's no real way to enter any text in. So knowing that keyboard shortcut is great. It saves you having to go all the way over to the right-hand side and look for a magnifier and try and find it, because usually there's a magnifier in the menu at the top, but you can have a lot of different items in the menu as well. The good thing about technology for me is there's never an end, to what you can find out and learn about it, right? And the whole point is, can we make our lives easier doing it, but also can we stimulate ourselves and keep ourselves active, taking advantage of it too? Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.